Right, hi everyone. Today I'm just answering a community question that I was sent a little while ago, and I forgot to respond to the message, so I feel bad. Sorry. I do that though. I'm absolutely terrible at responding to people, especially people that I'm new to talking to, even people I'm not new to talking to. All right. So someone's just asking about licensing for products in the Blender community. A lot of people do user licensing in the way of like, well, buy this tier of the product if you want like 5 to 10 seats for your company, this tier if you've got like up to 100 seats, whatever. They were asking how the pricing for clients typically works, in particular because an enterprise client is looking to get studio licensing for one of their add-ons. They're waiting for a confirmation for the number of seats, but they're discussing pricing and they want some advice. They're also thinking of offering premium support. So there's a lot of complexities in that. Are there any common practices for this? No, not really. But I mean, other Blender product creators will tell you other things because a lot of them are far more like optimized in terms of like trying to squeeze money out of people. And I tend to do things in a different way. So, right, they said they were also looking at my studio friendly license. So I'm not like other product creators. I'm not like the other girls. I don't grind things for maximum profit, and a lot of other product creators do. So the advice you're going to get from me and from other people is different and not sensible, or not suitable rather, depending on what you're going for. What kind of person are you? Are you like a toxic grind set optimizer? And you're going to like squeeze as much money as you can out of an enterprise client and gaslight yourself into not being ashamed by it, and like sit in Discord groups where you kind of like rub each other's ego over how effective your business strategies are? Or are you more subtle about things? So in my recent products, I created a new license that I called the Studio Friendly license, which is sort of a bridge between my freeform attitude towards licensing things and also making it somewhat enterprise compatible, but in a way that is not too aggressive and not exploitative. I avoid going for seat numbers. I instead go for projects. What I mean is, if a studio wants to use one of my products for a project they're doing, maybe it's a client project, maybe it's a video game, for example, whatever that defined project is, they need to buy a license for that project. And then when they move on to another project, they buy another license for that, regardless of how many people are working on said project or how many seats there are in the company. I like to not do things on a seat basis because I feel like it's unfriendly and confusing for people, especially those that are new into particular CG fields, for example. Again, people that are going into game development and they have a bunch of friends that they're making a game with, but then like the number of friends drops over time or things don't work out and they're worried about buying the right kind of license. And maybe there's like a 5 user tier that's really expensive and like a 1 user tier that's cheaper, and they don't know, they feel like they have to buy the 5 tier, but then some friends drop out and then it's like, wait, what? That's really confusing. Obviously that's a kind of simple example of just like a casual situation, but the same thing can happen in companies. Maybe companies are outsourcing and the dynamics of seat numbers becomes a bit confusing. So I just figure, sod that, we'll do it on a project level. And there's a kind of standardization to the pricing element, which is an individual tier or an independent tier has a basic pricing. So if you're like a solo developer or like artist, you buy the independent tier and you can use it for as many projects as you like. So it's very friendly in that way to individual creators, people just trying to find their way. The studio tier is typically double that price, or at least just under. It depends exactly where that number will fall. For example, with Afterglow, the individual tier is $59 and the studio is $99. Now obviously 99 is a bit lower than double 59, but again, it was around that 100 mark, so I take it down to 99. And then the unlimited studio license, which means that a commercial entity can use the product for any number of projects, which is more cost effective, is typically about 3 times the individual studio tier. So to put that into perspective, for Afterglow again, $59 if you're an individual, $99 if you're a studio for one project, and $299 if you're a studio for unlimited projects with no seat limits. And I like doing it like that because it's very easy to calculate. It's just kind of like an almost exponential scale in some way, the single value, the double value, and the triple value. Although there are a few conditions, a very small number of conditions in there, just about how if you purchase a product, if you're using it in a company, you're not allowed to share files outside of the company, and credit should be provided as well, but there's no definition on like the quantity of the credit or how it should be placed. For example, just Additional Assets by Curtis Holt would be like perfectly appropriate in like the credits of a video game or something. How that would work for enterprise level licensing, I have no idea, because if they're bundling your product in with other Blender products where those creators have different licensing models, then I don't really know how that would work in like a bundle type situation. That's something that is up to Superhive about, and I imagine that you might be encouraged into kind of replicating a licensing style that other product creators in the bundle are doing. So to the question of of, are there any common practices for this? I'm not the right person to ask about that because I'm not the common practice. I do things my own way in a way that I think is a bit more comfortable for people, that's not too exploitative. And I'm not really one for grinding out maximum profit, but I also try and make things as friendly for my future self as possible. So even if I did like products which are more scientific focused, I might substitute the word studio for institution or museum or foundation or something like that. In that case, it's easy for a museum, for example, to understand the licensing. So let's say that there's a situation where someone's making an exhibition and they want to use some assets or some kind of tool that I've made. They can just think about it in that way. Exhibition equals project, even if only one person is working on like the CG element. Or if they're like, well, how do we measure the seat count for this? Is it the person working on the CG for the exhibition, or is it the total number of employees for the museum? How are we doing the seat count? How do we calculate that? Don't think about that. That's why I think it's better doing things on a project basis, at least for me. It's easily transferable, the idea of a project by project basis. And it transcends just traditional like seat dynamics for things like visual effects studios or game development studios. But again, because I'm interested in the extended peripheral subjects like that, like scientific visualization, then that's why I think a bit more along those terms than, say, for example, other types of product creators which fall into more traditional licensing models around individual seat counts. As for premium support, that's something you can factor in. I don't really offer premium support, but support's a bit of a weird thing in the Blender community, right? Because we as product creators don't have to provide support. There are probably some individual details there relating to like laws in different countries, but support is not required. But there is an expectation for support. So I do provide some product support if it is specifically related to my products. I mean, a lot of the time people post help requests for issues which are not even specifically related for my products. And sometimes I have to tell them, look, this is not actually a product issue. This is a Blender issue. So it's outside of the scope of like how I can help you. But I do it anyway because, you know, it's also encouraging people to leave reviews as well if you provide support. Not that they really do. It's kind of rare that people will instinctively leave a review on their own accord, but providing support is kind of a nice way to assist with that. But by offering premium support, you may also be giving yourself more work. I suppose it kind of depends like how many people would take you up on that. It might be a case that just saying offering premium support is just like a vacuous tactic for squeezing more money out of people, because I provide support anyway. If I suddenly raised my prices and said premium support included, that's no different from what I'm already doing. I would feel a bit disingenuous doing it. But again, I'm not the optimizing grind set kind of guy. All right, so that's where we'll leave it. If you made it this far, leave some kind of purchase, commerce, coin related emoji in the comments so I can see if you made it this far. Remember, you can support me on Patreon if you want to support my projects, all my different channels as well. I've got a wide range of channels you can check out. CodeAssault channel, this channel, Reference Board, Blenderhole, Parasocial Therapy, etc. I make tools on codeassault.online/store. So yeah, thanks for watching. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.